When the average person sees someone dressed like me walking down the street, they have a lot of questions, and I'm glad that they do. One of my favorite things about being a friar, wearing my habit in public, having a social media outreach, is answering questions, and I get a lot of them. It's why 3 years ago, I made a video answering my top 10 friar questions. In honor of that video getting 100,000 views last week, I've decided to update it. Here are the top 10 questions I get asked on a regular basis.
What's your normal day like? How much do you pray?
One of the great things about our lives as friars is that there really is no such thing as a normal day. Unlike monks that live a stable lifestyle doing almost the same thing each and every day, we live itinerant, active lifestyles, responding to whatever the world hands us that day. While we do have some set things like morning prayer, evening prayer, time for meditation, and a few other things like that, we're pretty much free to respond to whatever happens that day. For me as a student, that means sometimes I'm in the classroom, sometimes studying, sometimes at the church, making videos, or even traveling.
Hey, Brother Casey, I saw this on the news the other day. What's your opinion?
While I understand that in our world today, opinions drive the news cycle, I try to resist this. The focus of breaking in the habit is evangelization and catechesis, not about my personal opinion on social issues. While I'm flattered that people would care to ask my opinion, it's not something that I generally share.
Brother Casey, where do you find the time and energy to do all the things you do online?
In all honesty, I think of myself as a pretty low energy person. While I show a lot of enthusiasm on camera, off camera, I am always looking for a nap and I need 8 hours of sleep a night, otherwise I am absolutely useless. What allows me to get by with all the work I do is just the persistence of working until I get it done, sacrificing a lot of free time, but also being efficient. Even when I'm watching a football game, even when I'm doing something else, I'm always doing something, making sure that the next task is prepared for.
So, what sorts of things do you study in seminary?
Unlike getting your PhD in which you need to know everything about one thing, going to seminary is about knowing a little bit about everything, because people see us as the jack of all trades. We often meet people in strange and varied situations. For that reason, we need to know scripture, history, theology, liturgy, sacraments, moral theology, and all the things that we may encounter as priests in our world.
I've been going through a lot lately. Could you please pray for me?
I'm sorry to hear that, but yes, I will absolutely pray for you. I love to pray with people right there on the spot in public, or if people send me messages through social media, I will keep them in prayer each and every day.
What's the most difficult vow to live?
You know, it really depends on what you mean by most difficult, because I understand why most people would say chastity, because it is difficult. It is the most intense by far of the vows. But it's not very constant. It sort of comes and goes, and most of your time you're not even thinking about it. Obedience, on the other hand, is very, very constant, albeit not quite as intense, because it's about living with your brothers, about being responsible, about being accountable. These things, especially when you live with people you don't necessarily get along with, can be much more difficult.
Are you gay?
Believe it or not, I get asked this question a lot. And honestly, it doesn't offend me in the slightest. I'm completely comfortable in my sexuality, and it doesn't bother me if people think that I might be gay. At the same time, I often don't respond to the question directly, but respond with a question of my own. Why does that matter? It seems like a very personal question to ask someone, and frankly, for someone who's a celibate, someone who's taken a vow of chastity, I don't know why that question matters. And so often I deflect and not answer.
Where will you be assigned after you're ordained? Do you have a say in this?
This is an excellent question that I wish I knew how to answer. Frankly, I just don't know. I do know that long gone are the days where you just get a letter in the mail and you're sent to somewhere against your will. They'll generally have a conversation and ask us what we'd like to do, what we're good at, and what would be best for the community. But outside of that, I don't know. But I will keep you posted over the next couple months.
So I know you can't get married, but can you have a girlfriend and do stuff?
Ah, yes. Questions about sex. Always the most fun and definitely the most awkward. I had someone ask me recently if I stayed a lay brother, could I get a wife and bring her to the community? Another person asked if we were allowed to, just fool around on the side. No. Really, the only difference between us and a single Catholic is that we've consecrated ourselves to a community. We still have the 10 Commandments, we still have moral theology. We're called to live chaste lives that, unless we're in a unitive relationship seeking procreation, we can't seek sexual relations with anyone. That's not what we're called to as Christians.
What are you wearing?
What's with the outfit?
Where'd you get that costume?
Yes, despite being an 800-year-old order, shaping much of European history and founding the Southwest United States, most people just have no idea who we are. And that's okay, because it gives us an opportunity to interact with people we wouldn't otherwise ever talk with. People ask honest and genuine questions, having no idea what they're getting themselves into. I get to talk about Jesus with complete strangers. I get to tell them that I live a part of a brotherhood that lives poverty, chastity, and obedience for the sake of the poor, following Jesus Christ in the Catholic Church. And more times than not, they're amazed. They had no idea we were still around, and they're inspired. What an amazing opportunity I have that I would never have in jeans and a t-shirt. So we've just answered 10 questions, but we may not have answered your question. So if you have a question that you'd like me to answer, leave it in the comments. If your question is, how do I get more videos? You can subscribe by clicking here. Also, be sure to check out my blog at breakinginthehabit.org.